1. About 2 years ago, I worked as a hostess at a family-style tap house during the summer months. The location was down near the mall and a few of my friends' houses, so I would often change clothes after work and walk downtown. I was sometimes sent home due to it not being very busy, and today was one of these days. I threw on some jean shorts and a tube top with a light flannel I had packed for the event. I was let out early enough to hang with friends. Some of my friends were hanging a few blocks away at a comic book shop, close enough so I could walk. After signing out, I said goodbye to my co-workers and set off. The tube top didn't show a lot of my chest, but enough to show that I had a fair amount of scars. My breast had also caused them to warp a bit and caused them to be a bit more noticeable. I didn't care, and by this time was rather proud of them. So when people asked about them, I was able to tell them what happened and seemed like a normal human person. I was also keeping my ADD and ADHD under control for the most part. It was still there, but I could act normal. As previously explained, I had a lot of scars all over my chest area. The biggest one looking like an upside-down cross down the middle of my chest and close to my stomach. This was due to congenital heart diseases and congenital diaphragmatic hernias when I was little, and the surgeries I went through to fix them. As I was walking downtown, I got a text from one of my friends from the comic shop, said that I should definitely bring them food and they would pay me back. Pretty standard lazy teen stuff, so I agreed and went to the nearest convenience store on the way. I walked in and went into the snack food aisle and started to pick out chips and pop and such. As I was headed down the candy section, a family of 3 walked in. A mom, EM, dad, ED, and a little kid, LK, who was about 6. I heard the small kid crying about something, but other than that I didn't pay much mind to them. I was picking out candy to give my friends because I was feeling generous. I was getting paid that weekend. I squatted to look at other candies when L came waddling down the aisle looking at the sweets. I saw him coming and waved to him as he was laughing at the colorfully packaged candies. He ran up to me, laughing, reached for the candy I was holding, Almond Joy, I think. That's right, judge me. And I handed it to him, knowing I could just get another. He was really happy and then noticed the scars on my upper chest and pointed in a curious way. I adjusted my tube top a bit just in case, and LK asked, "What's that on your chest?" I smiled and told him that I was sick, but now I'm all better. It was what I told kids I knew probably wouldn't understand medical jargon. LK seemed satisfied with that response and ran off with the candy I gave him. I had gotten my candy and went to the checkout with my goods to pay. I had set my stuff on the table when I glanced and saw the LK talking with his parents near the entrance to the store. At first I thought the mom was going to be mad about the Almond Joy, but she didn't seem to care and I thought I was all good. EM and ED start to look concerned, then angry. I had no idea what the LK was saying. Then the ED whipped his head around to look at me. I had no clue what was going on. Then the LK pointed to his chest and my heart dropped into my stomach. The EPs looked pretty ticked off and the ED was staring daggers into me, and I pretended not to notice. I could tell they were looking at my chest now. I was used to the feeling and it usually didn't bother me as much, but I knew something was about to happen. Sure enough, as I had collected my bags, I felt a sharp tap on my shoulder, and I turned around to find both the EM and ED looking at me with irritated looks, which immediately put me on the defensive side. I didn't say anything, just looked at them, waiting for whatever was coming. This apparently wasn't a good idea. The EM slowly looked down at my chest, then back at my face. I let her look. I was used to looks like this, and I didn't care at this point. The EM didn't like that and said, "So, you think it's cool promoting that kind of lifestyle?" I'll admit that threw me for a loop. Not really knowing how to respond to that, I said, "Sorry, what?" The ED then said, "You know damn well what? People like you are going to hell. The fact that you think it's okay to tell kids about that is so disturbing." I was honestly hurt, and I had no idea why I was even hurt. I knew they were talking about my scars, but I didn't know why they were so offended. I then hesitantly asked them, "Are you talking about my surgical scars?" This caused the ED to look like he was having a stroke. He got up close to my face. ED said, "You think I look like a fucking idiot, don't you? Quit spreading your Satanist propaganda bullshit around my son." I quickly stepped back as he said this, and the realization clicked. They thought my scars were a cult thing from what I could gather due to it looking like an upside-down cross, and for some reason I had the desire to play along and the desire to laugh. But I kindly explained to them that they were from heart problems in the past and tried to give them a summary of my history. They didn't believe me, and this only got them more pissed. The EM started spouting off about lying and being disrespectful. At this point I was really irritated for being yelled at and told them that I was going to leave, and they were seriously messed up. Then the dad told me he was going to call the police for harassment and endangerment to his son. I really didn't want that, and took out my card that I carried around just in case paramedics found me, and they would know my conditions, and showed it to the EPs. They looked at it for maybe 4 seconds, and went quiet. The EM looked really embarrassed and turned red, but the ED didn't look convinced. He said I was lying, and that medicine wouldn't leave anyone looking that effed up and ugly, and that I needed to leave before I caused any more damage to his family. I told him I was sorry that my medical history inconvenienced them in the most mock customer service voice I could, and walked out the door, but not before the ED yelled after me a bunch of curses and called me a witch, and that I was going to hell. I walked with my jacket off my chest the rest of the way to the comic shop, and my friends and I laugh about it sometimes. 2. So this is a story harking back to my time as a balloon saleswoman at a family park in the UK. The park I worked at was part of a fairly large zoo which I would spend time patrolling pretty much every day. I was 17 and it was my first job, so I always carried out my duties enthusiastically and with a smile on my face. It was a quiet day in spring, and my sales goal for the day was very low. It was based on number of visitors and weather conditions. As a result, I was in a very cheerful mood and would just hover in the areas where the wind was a bit quieter, and maybe I could chat with another employee about their daily business. Both the big sea lion show and the elephant feed were on, so the rest of the zoo was pretty much dead, and I was just thinking about heading up to the main arena to catch some customers on the way out. Suddenly I hear 3 or 4 kids shouting from around the corner. The big cat enclosures, we had 2 lions and a tiger, are situated right in the corner of the park, and usually only get busy around feeding time. There was a family of 2 parents and 4 kids stood by the tiger enclosure screaming at the poor thing, as she sat around 100 meters away trying to ignore them. One of my absolute pet peeves is people shouting at the animals. Usually it's squawking at parrots or making monkey sounds at the gorillas, though, not this. For some reason they were shouting Felix at the tiger. At first I thought it might be because one of the major cat food brands in the UK is called Felix. But then I realized they have very strong American accents, so I have absolutely no idea where this came from. Possibly a reference to Felix the cat. I walked up to them and told them politely that her name was actually Aliona, and that she didn't like too much noise. At this point I had stepped out of the shelter and was being battered around by my 20 or so balloons in the wind. The mother walked over to me and sneered. I shall call her Karen for tradition's sake. She was a heavy woman with absolutely pristine blonde hair, despite only wearing a tatty jumpsuit, which was a size too small.
Just let them do it. I'm sure he's used to it by now. Besides, he's too far away. We can't even see him.
She turned around to her kids.
Keep calling him over,
she encouraged, and they restarted their barrage of noise. I repeated again that the tiger's name was Aliona, she was female, and that she doesn't like noise. Once again I was ignored.
Why is he alone? It seems cruel.
Because apparently now she cares about this animal, despite the fact that she is scaring it with screaming. I explained that our male had recently passed, and that the zoo was looking to improve the enclosures before breeding any more. Besides, tigers were solitary animals in the wild, and didn't really require companionship. She began muttering to herself about the zoo being wrong, and recounted a short tale about how they had just seen our 2 male lions in a rather interesting position. That's another story I won't get into right now, though. During this time, Aliona began to approach the fence. It was a cold day and I had no company-issued jacket, so a maintenance worker, Kevin, he's a swell dude, had lent me his. It just so happened to be the same color as the keeper's jumper, and I'm assuming the tiger thought she was going to get fed. She pressed her nose up to the fence, eyeing me to see if I had any food. Now there is a low fence that separates the visitors from the main fence by a few feet. It is to stop people attempting to climb it or sticking their fingers through. one of Karen's children decided they wanted to get a little closer and began to climb over the partition. I sternly told him to get down and that he couldn't climb over the fence. Karen had other ideas. I don't know if it was because I was only 17 or the fact that I sold balloons for a living, but once again she didn't listen. In fact, she decided to help her kid over the fence.
Now show this lady how good you are with animals, sweetie.
She turned to me smugly.
See, he didn't mind the noise. We've done this before with other tigers. There's no need to worry.
Now, I don't know for sure, but I do believe the attitude towards keeping big cats in zoos is a little different in Europe than it is in places like Australia and the USA. We cannot keep them as a pet, and in zoos they are usually just left alone. Even as cubs, they are not taken out and handled. They aren't used to people at all. The most interaction they get is when the keeper might occasionally feed them through the bars. I let go of my balloons, I was a bit flustered, and they just slipped out of my hand, and 100 pounds or so worth of product went flying into the sky as I reached for my radio and called security. Now, I mentioned before that the big cat section is right in the corner of the park. That meant it would take a little while for them to get there. I reached over the fence and attempted to grab the kid, but I didn't have the keys for the gate, and I could not get over it with my radio gear and money bag. I shouted at him to come back. Karen grabbed me.
Just leave him alone, and don't shout at my kid. He probably can't understand you anyway because of that stupid accent.
She sneered. I have quite a pronounced northerner accent, but I speak perfect English. I mean, I am actually English, duh. But she was holding onto the sleeve of my jumper quite tightly, and I told her to get the fuck off me and went to grab the kid again. That's when the kid stuck his finger through the fence. Oh no. Leona leapt at it. I'm assuming she thought it was food and bit down on his finger. The kid screamed, which scared her, and she let go. Karen's eyes went wide and she dragged her child over the fence as he cried. His finger didn't look too badly hurt, and it was all there. But that tiger could have done some serious damage if she wanted to. She looked up at me, rage twisting her face.
Look at what that stupid beast did! You have to put that thing down! It's dangerous!
No shit, it's a fucking tiger. I said as such, and she took it as an opportunity to slap me across the face.
You should teach them to be nice. Look at what it did to my precious baby. All he wanted to do was pet the kitty.
Her kid began wailing even louder, and she grabbed my radio off me and began shouting about how she needed a first aider. I neglected to tell her that she had not even pushed the transmit button down. Security arrived about a minute later, and she began yelling at them about how the evil creature should be put down, and it had viciously attacked her darling child. She was escorted out, and I was taken into the main building to give my statement. I also had to log all of the balloons I had lost, which sucked. I'm not really sure what happened to that family after that. Throughout the entire ordeal, the father hadn't spoken a word, and the other kids had followed him out quickly when they left. I told them that she had hit me, but they didn't want to do anything about it. I'm assuming because she was from another country and going to court would be annoying. Leona is still alive and well. Some part of me even hopes she got a taste for entitled brat blood that day, although we may never know. 3. I mainly work as a teacher, but since teachers get paid horribly, I usually have a second part-time job. Last winter, that part-time job happened to be at an ice rink, which has a small restaurant for visitors. It is possible to have as organized children's birthday parties in cooperation with the ice rink. The ice rink has public visiting times and times where it's just used for ice hockey and figure skating practice. During those times we can't arrange birthday parties since the ice is closed for public usage. This time a lady came in rather late and asked me if she could arrange a birthday party for her daughter. I got one of the forms which I have to fill in for this, asked for her name, the number of children expected, and their shoe sizes, which rental skates they'd need. When she said her name, it rang a bell and I knew it was the mother of one of my students. This student had big issues in both of my subjects, often missing homework, disturbing the class, and so on, and I've tried contacting this lady for ages but have been ignored. Now I do draw the line between both jobs, so I didn't ask her about school because it's just not the right place for it there, and would have been unprofessional. I fill out the form and then give the mother the timetable with the available times for birthday parties, and asked her which one she'd like. After she studied the timetable for a few minutes, she asked me if other times are possible too. I told her that there aren't. She seemed a bit disappointed and just stared at me blankly. After about 3 minutes, "And? Have you thought of a solution?" "Well, there are 2 options. Either you choose to have the birthday party during the available times, or you have to reconsider the plans for the party." "I was more hoping that you could make room for the party at a different time." "Sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. I am not in a position to change the schedules." "Couldn't you call your boss?" "I could, but he's not in the position either." "Don't mess with me. He owns this place, so he can decide." "No, the ice rink is a public accommodation. My boss merely rented the restaurant from the city to offer this service. But we can't change the schedule of the training sessions, as they are the responsibility of the city itself." "There has to be something you can do for me. I'm willing to pay a good amount of money to have my daughter's birthday party here, so it should be in your interest to make it happen." "I'd be glad to host your daughter's birthday party here, but only during the opening hours. You can use the restaurant during the training session, so if you want to extend the stay after the public skating, you can do that, but won't be allowed to go on the ice." "I'll have to call my husband about this." In the end, she did agree to that solution and arranged an appointment with me. To avoid awkwardness, I stayed in the kitchen the day they had the birthday party, and my friend took care of the guests. Thing is, they didn't show up. At first, at least. 20 minutes before the end of the public skating, they showed up, put their stuff in the restaurant, and put on the shoes. We thought maybe they weren't that keen on the skating and just wanted a nice stay in the restaurant, and to watch the practice. It's a very popular thing to do for ice hockey fans. 20 minutes pass, and they come to the restaurant, order their food, and all is good. My friend wasn't having any trouble serving them, and I was happy with just preparing the food. But after an hour or so, they decided to go on the ice and interrupt the training session. If you know anything about ice hockey, you'd know it's dangerous to have unprotected kids go on the ice randomly during puck drills, etc. So very quickly the children were taken off the ice again. The mother took notice and got furious. I could hear the conversation she had with my friend through the kitchen door. "How dare you ruin a child's birthday party?" "Sorry, but you showed up late. The public skating times are over and interfering with the training session is too dangerous." "Your co-worker said I could be here during training sessions." "This must have been a misunderstanding. If you want, we can just arrange a new party during public times." "I want a refund." "Sorry, we can't do that as you've already had food and used our services, but I would compromise on arranging another party free of charge at a different time." "My daughter is a very busy student. She is sitting in front of her textbooks and homework all day to keep her straight A's, and she has many talents which she has to keep up after school, too. She doesn't have time to stick to your stupid schedule. She isn't a lazy teen who abolishes their responsibility for leisure time, like your other customers. But tell me, mister, do you really want to punish my daughter for being a responsible child and focusing on her education?" I've heard everything and decided to intervene. "Your daughter is actually my student. She often misses homework, has big difficulties following the class, and I'm happy when I get to put a C on her tests. I also often enough see her play on the school playground while I'm preparing my lessons. You, on the other hand, have not had the time to even answer my calls regarding the troubles of your daughter. So, if you don't have the time during our opening hours, I'm very sorry for your daughter, but don't lie in order to get advantages." She looked at me in a very judgmental way and shook her head while walking off. She comes back with her daughter and asks while laughing in a condescending way, "This poorly dressed teen claims to be your teacher. Can you believe this?" The poor kid went white and ran off. To be fair, I don't look like a teacher. I can't grow a beard, so I look younger than I am, and I dress like a teen outside of school simply because hoodies and sweatpants are more comfortable than button-downs and dress shoes. I feel sorry for the child because she was very embarrassed by this, but I didn't want the mother to lie to my friend. In the end, the mother hired a nanny for her child's birthday party, which they then held during the public opening hours. 4. Characters. EM, Elon Musk. Me, Annie, my puppy, who is a chocolate lab border collie mix, is super friendly and incredibly smart. KM, kind man. So I've gotten into a schedule of taking Annie to the dog park a few times a week, on the weekend or after work. This is to help get her used to other dogs as they make her nervous. Something to know is this dog park is attached to the animal shelter. It's great because if the park doesn't have a lot of dogs, the staff will bring out the shelter dogs to play. Back to the story. Annie absolutely loves people, and the owners that sit around at the park always fall in love with her as she runs up to them to say hi quite a bit. I always praise her with "Good girl, Annie," when she says hi to one of her friends. I keep my attention on her, and notice she starts skipping one of the ladies watching the dogs. But I don't think much of it as she's settling in and starting to play with the dogs. After a while, Annie comes over to me and lays down. She's panting, so I pull out her bowl and water to get her a drink. Here comes EM. "Is this your dog? She's really cute." "Oh yes, she is, thank you." "Is she a chocolate lab? I hear those dogs are smart and good with kids." "Yeah, she's a chocolate lab border collie mix. She's super smart. She's just under 5 months and we know a lot of tricks." I have Annie sit, lay, shake, and high-five me. I use a clicker, so after I click it, I reward her with a treat from a baggie in my pocket. This will come up later. Wow. It took my dog a year to learn all of those. He's kind of dumb though. Does she know any other tricks? Well, she knows behavior actions like drop it, leave it, down, stuff like that. We worked on those first, so now we're working on fun tricks. She loves learning, so that's a plus. My kids are going to love her. How much? Oh boy, here we go. I prepare myself for the approaching scene. I've read enough stories to know what's going on. She's not for sale. She's my first dog, and I've wanted one since I was 4. We've had a long road to where we are now, and I'm not willing to give her to someone else. Maybe check the shelter. It's right there, and they have a lot of great dogs. They bring them over here sometimes, and they're super friendly. I don't want some stupid mutt. I want her. You wouldn't be giving her away. I'd pay for her. How's $100? No, she's my dog. I've raised her to this point, and I'm not selling her. Even if you offered $1 million, I'd still say no. I love this girl. Meanwhile, Annie is oblivious, just drinking her water and sniffing my jacket for her treat bag. You need to learn to respect your elders. Your generation's so rude. I'd say the same thing about yours. I just get up, pick up Annie's things, and motion her to heel. She does, and we walk over to where I clipped her leash to the fence and clip it to Annie's harness. Get back here! Help! This lady is stealing my dog! All the other dog owners are looking at us, and Annie starts whining. I reassure her that she's not doing anything wrong and just head for the exit. EM runs and rips the leash off my wrist, leaving me with a red rope burn. The motion yanks Annie to the side and she yelps, "Hey, cut it out! You've just hurt her! Give me my dog back!" KM approaches us. His cute little miniature schnauzer is following him to see what their dad is up to. "Ma'am, I am 100% sure that this dog belongs to OP. I have seen her here quite a few times." "Shut up! I didn't ask you!" "Me and my dog are going home." KM goes and stands in front of the gate to stop EM from leaving. EM is shouting at KM, and while she is distracted, I unclip the leash and pick up Annie, who is whining and clearly shaken. EM shouts at me to give her back, and I ask KM to call the police, as EM was getting more out of control, and this clearly wasn't going to end without law enforcement. Luckily for us, city buildings like to hang out together, and there's a police station just down the road, and an officer is there within minutes. "What's going on?" "What's going on?" I walk up to him with Annie still in my arms. "This lady is trying to steal my dog. She offered money, and when I refused, she just tried taking her." KM backed me up, but EM was still crying. "No, officer. She is taking my dog. I want her arrested." The officer instructs that I put Annie down so he can talk to me. I do, pick up the leash EM dropped and clip it back onto Annie's harness. The officer takes the leash. Annie is wagging her tail and loving that she gets to meet a new person. The officer pets Annie, and Annie kisses his hand, wiggling with delight. Annie then comes over to me to tell me about her new friend. The officer looks at EM. "Seems like this dog belongs to OP. Princess is just doing that because OP has treats in her pocket." "Princess?" Okay. Annie likes to roll in the mud and is down for a play fight any time, but I guess EM thought it fit. Her name is Annie. I do have treats, but it's to train and encourage her. I also have toys and water in my bag. I have an idea. Officer, Annie is microchipped and the shelter is right there. We can just have them scan her and it'll tell you that she's mine. The officer agrees, and we start walking over to the entrance. EM knows that the registration will pop up with my info, so she's trying to stop us. That scanner is harmful to dogs. I don't want Princess to get skin cancer from the laser. The officer isn't having any of it and tells her to keep walking. At the shelter, the officer gently picks up Annie and the shelter staff scan her microchip. I have pulled out my ID just in case they need to check it. Surprise, surprise! Annie's chip shows my name as her owner, my phone number, and my husband's phone number as contact, as well as our vet's info. EM didn't say anything after the staff checked my ID. The officer tells EM to go home. She complies and I take Annie back to the park. The officer stays for a few minutes to make sure she's not coming back. The fact that Annie was playing with him and giving him kisses was just a bonus, I'm sure. She's very cute and very friendly. I can see why EM wanted her. Thank you, I've been working on getting her socialized, but she's always loved people. Annie goes back to play with the other dogs and I make sure to find KM and thank him for helping me. The rope burn was sensitive, but was already fading. It was an adventure. Always make sure your dog is microchipped. It greatly increases the chance of your dog coming home if they get lost and will maybe shut down a Karen trying to snag them. 5. I have been plagued with physical problems. I have a boot I can barely walk in. I have an extra bone in my foot, and with the PT I had, it caused me to limp slightly. This detail will come important later. So, without further ado, here's the story of how a mother demanded a huge competition robot from me. A bit of context. I'm on a FIRST robotics team, a high-skill robotics format that requires students to build a robot within a time frame roughly around 6 weeks. With a constraint of money, space, weight, etc., my team built a robot to compete for this year. Alongside competing, we love going out into our local community and demonstrating the capabilities of our students by showing our competition and robot. This year we were offered to go to a STEM competition in my state, built for middle schoolers and unrelated to FIRST. We would create a challenge that they would have to solve and partake in order to move to the next station. We decided to have the robot be lifted up onto planks so it couldn't move, and have the students control our elevator to put a dodgeball in a cutout of a rocket for this year's game. It would allow usage of the robot safely, and still allowing people to come close with no risk of injury. And it was genius. It took us a few weeks to prepare for this event so we would know how it went down. What we weren't told was the massive amount of EPs we would receive through the day. Overall, we received about 6 EPs, with me being on duty all of them. I don't know why me, but the one I was alone for was the worst of the bunch. My mentor decided he wanted to watch the exhibit and show going on next door, so I allowed him since I would be able to hold down the fort on my own. It's still a robot with a simple explanation, isn't too hard, and I had enough room to reload the ball while not knocking anything down with my boot. As mentioned previously, I couldn't walk well, and I need a boot to decently walk. So I grabbed a stool and sat near the controller so the children wouldn't be able to blindside me. And enter the EP. She storms out from the elevator, kid in tow, and a timesheet in her hand.
You, lady, I need to talk to you.
And my anxiety skyrockets. I hate confrontation and loud shouting noises. It makes me emotional and cry. But I sucked it up, put on my best "how can I help you" face and respond, "Yes?"
My son was here 15 minutes ago and completed your challenge. We went to card our time in to win, and it turns out we needed a sheet. How absurd!
They gave all the attendees a sheet to log it. How did you miss it? Oh, I'm sorry about that. I can log that in for you, just give me the time and I can write it down. I smiled and she must have took that as a sarcastic look.
I don't need your shenanigans. This should be done already. Incompetent high schoolers.
I'm sorry, what? I never saw you hand a sheet, so I thought you were a regular attendee not participating. But no matter what time.
Don't bullshit me.
And she starts ranting. Now I start to worry just a slight bit with the yelling. It wasn't doing good for my PTSD nor my anxiety. I looked down and winced, hoping my mentor would come soon. But what happened after was, in some right, my fault, but the kid should have known not to do so. I left the laptop on with the driver station loaded and enabled. It's a program that allows you to control the robot from the laptop. You enable and disable it when you get close or not using it to preserve the robot's battery. And I wasn't looking all too well, but the kid grabbed the elevator joystick and full-throttled it, and snapped to what appeared to be the stool that moves the elevator up and down. I heard this kid and squeaked in fear, hit disable, and went to investigate.
I said, sign my time.
Not now. In order to give participants a fair chance, this robot needs to be fixed. Please come back in 5 minutes so I can get it signed.
No.
Well, tough luck. Then wait here a while, and keep your voice down, please.
No, I need this signed now.
Insert more ranting. I just sighed and gave up, tried my best to sit down with my boot near the robot, and realign the spool and Kevlar wire to put it back into working condition, with my limited mechanical knowledge. And then I see the wheels turn. We hit our controller that controls the robot behind the display we had. Our laptop has to load in both controls in order for either one to work, so we just hit our other controller for safety purposes, and I already knew what was happening. Ma'am, please tell your son to let go of that controller.
He's just having fun. It's not like it's hurting you.
It's disrupting my work and will make me go slower. To not only that, it's hidden for a reason.
Whatever, I need this signed now.
Please back away and I will sign that soon. Please leave.
For all your trouble, I should have that hunk of metal.
Okay. Have fun taking a fully extended 8-foot, 125-pound robot back home, unless you have a huge limo.
No, you...
Way to take 2,500 worth of materials back? You won't even be able to use it. You take 21 kids' pride and baby away. And enter my mentor. Thank God he sees me and runs over to the spot I'm at, struggling to fix the robot. You okay? Yeah, having a bit of a mechanical issue. Get up, make sure to sign that paper to get her out of your face, and stop putting pressure on your foot.
Your foot?
Looks at the boot.
Wow, pretending to be injured for pity. Wow, how low of you.
Never mind, just don't sign the paper.
What? How dare you condone unfair behavior here? My son did your challenge twice, and he should be the winner. Sign it.
We just ignore her until the volunteers of the event finally lead her off and away. I didn't see her nor the kid. We fixed the bot, opened back up, and I got an early lunch break down to the volunteer and vendor backroom for pizza and to cool. I just didn't like how she screamed at me. Or this wouldn't have happened. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to the Impractical That didn't go very well, did it? The Impractical Proudness of Parents. Number 6. Or 7. Number 6. Okay. I keep getting interrupted today while I've been finishing off recording of these stories. My own fault. I got my new phone, and when I get a new phone, so it doesn't get all broke, obviously you get screen protectors and a case. And there was a thing I'd ordered from my fish tank a while ago which arrived. I'll have to count. It's meant to be a bag of 200 little glow-in-the-dark stones. It doesn't look like 200, but they are small, so it could be. I'll open them up and count them. I swear, if there's 199 there, I shall be very grumpy. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.